I'm very pleased to present our next keynote speaker, Mr. Giorgi Jologua. He is an assistant professor at Caucasus University, and for the last 10 years, he has been supervising monitoring of Georgian press and online media during elections. This year, the Georgian Charter for Journalistic Ethics have decided to monitor Facebook as well, and they hired Mr. Giorgi Jologua to supervise this project. So that is what he's exactly talking about right now, monitoring Facebook during elections. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting us to speak at this conference from Caucasus University. I'm very much looking forward to listen to other presentations, especially the ones about media literacy, because at our Caucasus School of Media, we are very actively working on media literacy research. However, today I'm not going to speak about media literacy, but about, as it was mentioned, monitoring Facebook during elections. Let me share my screen with you. I hope everybody can see the screen. This is a monitoring of Facebook is being conducted in shapes of a very long ongoing project in Georgia, which is funded by European Union delegation to Georgia and UNDP Georgia. It started in 2010, and for the last 10 years, during every election cycle in Georgia, we monitor Georgian TV, press, online media, and radio. And this year, for the first time, we decided to add monitoring of Facebook as well. Now, those of us who have been involved in monitoring, with monitoring of Facebook or any other type of research of Facebook, we know how challenging it is to come up with a solid methodology and solid findings from monitoring Facebook, especially related to elections during the election period. So what we try to do is that we begin with formulating a research question. What would be the exact question which we would like to answer through monitoring of Facebook? So we didn't want to monitor Facebook in sake of monitoring Facebook. We wanted to find something new, and we started with some honest questions of we would like to hear and find after monitoring of Facebook. So we basically constructed our research question around the idea of information, spread of information through Facebook during elections. Now, research shows that year after year, number of people who receive their daily news from internet in Georgia increases, and of course, therefore, increases the number of people who receive their daily information through Facebook. Now, Facebook is extremely popular in Georgia. Twitter and other social network platforms are not so popular. Facebook is like everybody is on Facebook, politicians, media, and so on. So we basically ended up monitoring traditional media on Facebook, their performance of Facebook, and how the news, and by news here I mean media products, how are they disseminated through Facebook, and we tried to monitor and to watch the flow of information through Facebook during the election period. Therefore, we had some further questions to answer our research question. So we wanted to observe what types of media outlets like TV, online, or some suspicious new small media outlets, what types of media outlets have the widest reach through Facebook? So which are more popular among users according to numbers of shares and likes and so on and so interactions. Then we wanted to see what types of media products reach the widest audiences through Facebook during the election period. And here we use the term problematic. So we all know that it's very risky to define something as what they call fake news or disinformation. So we used the term problematic, and we wanted to actually see the ratio of how much problematic suspicious media product is circulating on Facebook most actively, and how much more trustworthy, reliable information. We also observed how does traditional media, especially TV and online media, use Facebook during elections. So we wanted to see, is there any difference from what they broadcast on air through their TV channels and what they share on their Facebook pages, how they share information through their Facebook pages during elections. We also observed what type of information, of course, is spread through large open groups and popular pages. Now, we all know what open group means. We did this because we wanted to see what type of news are circulating where most users are concentrated. And these places for these are open groups with hundreds of thousands of members and popular pages. By popular page, I mean pages with very high numbers of followers, not especially pages or groups which are related to politics, but all of them, because we have popular pages, we have pages which are for fun or for some religious purposes or Georgia has a population of less than 4 million, and I think you would agree that 700,000 virtual followers is quite a big number. So we wanted to see what is being shared where people don't expect the news, because the pages and groups which are about politics of many organizations are watching them and discussing, but we wanted to see this huge area where there is no observation and no monitoring. What kind of media products are shared there, where hundreds of thousands of Georgians are virtually accumulated? And also we observed how social media used by state authorities, political parties, and politicians as a platform for spreading news during the election. So we observed what kind of media products they share, what is the ratio of the so-called fake news and disinformation, and how politicians use Facebook as a platform for spreading news during the elections. For these purposes, we had a sampling which we observed daily. This project is still ongoing because we have elections on 31st of October, and we already published the first report, and next week will be published the next report. So sampling, what did we observe to find answers to our research questions? We observed Facebook pages of 6 TV channels daily. Every single information, news item which was shared on their on their Facebook pages was monitored each day. Also pages of 13 online media outlets, 60 open groups, 137 popular pages, and the selection criteria was that the popular page should have minimum 40,000 followers, because population of Georgia is almost 4 million, so we decided roughly 1%. So we decided to look to the pages which include which are followed by at least 1% of Georgian population, and with CrowdTangle and BuzzSumo we identified 137 pages like this, which we monitored each day, every single news item which was published on these pages. Also Facebook pages of state authorities, President, Prime Minister, Speaker of Parliament, all the ministries and 4 ministers which have verified Facebook pages. Also Facebook pages of 12 political parties and 25 individual politicians. We monitored every single post which was published by these politicians. If it was in a form of a media product, we monitored it quantitatively. If it was just a post, we monitored it qualitatively. And basically the reason was to see how trustful is the information which politicians and political parties share through Facebook, and how ethical is their behavior in terms of political warfare before the elections. And also we monitored 20 of most widely spread media products through Facebook daily. We used the program BuzzSumo for this, so we tried to identify 20 media products which had the highest number of interactions among Georgian users daily. I understand here might be many questions, so maybe after presentation I will be happy to answer. I have to respect the time limit of the presentation because there is so much information and data in this monitoring of Facebook. So let me just jump to the major findings. Well, the first finding was that the most widespread media products on Facebook are created by top-rated, very well-known to public media outlets, especially TV channels. So what I mean by this is that we monitored 20 most shared articles daily. We monitored big groups, big popular pages, and we almost in all the cases, what was shared was prepared by well-known top-rated media outlets. So here we can come up with the conclusions that like traditional media, very well-known media, top-rated media, has the widest reach through Facebook, and suspicious, like less known media outlets have almost no reach through the high numbers of open pages and so on and so on. Especially interesting finding was that media products prepared by TV channels had the widest reach among users on Facebook. So this is interesting if for those who are familiar with Georgian context that TV media has a huge role in elections in Georgia, of course all around the world, but in Georgia especially. They're literally engaged in political warfare in the election period. So our finding was that even on Facebook, TV media is who is creating media product and sharing the media products most widely. As one of my friends said, people are basically watching TV on Facebook as well, because products created by TV media have the widest spread and highest numbers of interactions and shares on Facebook. Now, when it comes to the so-called, as people refer to, fake news and disinformation, we found that in popular pages, the number of such content was very, very low. It was slightly more in open groups, but here comes a very interesting finding that numbers of interactions from public was very low. So here we can come to a conclusion that the so-called fake news and disinformation do not have much reach and influence, if we can say so, through Facebook on Georgia. And I'm specifically speaking about disinformation and fake news and suspicious products, which are published in the form of a media product. And the state authorities, which we monitored, the reason of monitoring state authorities and ministries was to see if they use their Facebook page to engage in political warfare during the elections or to promote their work, which is quite normal. And we found that they're using their Facebook pages quite ethically. We didn't find one single case of like political use or the discrimination of political opponents on the Facebook pages of state authorities. And when it comes to political parties and individual politicians, our finding was that they quite often use their Facebook pages for mocking their opponents and sometimes insulting their opponents, but the cases of extreme violations such as hate speech and call for violence or dissemination of obvious disinformation was very low. Here as well with politicians. Most of information, most of media products which they shared was quite more or less trustworthy and reliable. So the big conclusion here, the final conclusion here might be that the general picture is actually not too bad, because of course there is fake news, of course there is disinformation, but they are not shared so widely. They are not popular, we can say like this. They're not popular, and politicians and state authorities, they use their Facebook pages, which is more or less in shapes of ethics of political warfare. The situation is not really disastrous on Georgian Facebook. That is what I could conclude after our monitoring. Now, I would like to thank you for your attention. I apologize for speaking a little bit fast because it is very hard to combine such big data and so many short presentation. Here's the website mediamonitor.ge, where you can find the full report, of course translated in English. There is my email address. I will be happy to answer any of the questions, and I'm very much looking forward for your question if there are any. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I can imagine that this is quite hard to to present all your results in a limited amount of time. There are already questions from our next keynote speaker, from Mrs. Katarina Sokolova. I'm going to read it out loud. Based on the sampling, will the results be representative? How did you choose the TV channels? What were the criteria? Ownership, coverage? What is the level of trust to media? Some questions, very interesting ones.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and thank you because now I have more time to explain the details of the monitoring. The criteria for selecting TV channels, we had two criteria. One, they must have a website, not Facebook page only, but a website which they use very actively, and many TV channels in Georgia have very active websites. And the number two criteria was that they should have at least 100,000 likes on Facebook. So according to these two criteria, we defined the 6 TV channels, which on one side had a very active web page where they published daily news. And number 2 was that they had more than 100 followers. So this gave us, because this is an immense work, we couldn't do, there was no chance to do more than 6. So we came up with this criteria, we defined 6. About the other parts of sampling, I believe it can be reliable, because we had 137 popular pages which we monitor daily. Every single item which is posted through these pages is monitored, and also 60 open groups. I think it is big enough. So I believe the sampling is quite reliable. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Giorgi Jologua? I mean, if you want to tell us a bit more maybe about the current research you're doing now, this could be also of interest.
Which research are you asking about?
Because you said this is like not the final results, you're still researching. So what's the focus right now?
Yes, we began in mid-July. And right now, actually, today we are working on our next report, which will be published on 29th of October, just 2 days before the elections. And this report, it was completely new. It was the first time, so we also received some feedback from experts in the field. So we are trying to maybe improve more and more to make things more clear. Honestly, the biggest challenge while writing the report was to make things clear, because we are working on this and we know what we are talking about. But for another person who has never been involved in such research, we try to make it as clear as possible. And yeah, so right now we are just publishing and waiting for the feedback, especially about the parts which were not so absolutely clear to the readers. And our main job right now is to make it as clear as possible and short, because our first report was 40 pages, and it should be shorter in order for people to read it. But there is really a lot of data, a lot of details, and so on and so on.
Okay, 40 pages. I thought it's even worse. So I feel like you could read 40 pages. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much. Those were really interesting facts, and I'm looking forward to new publications. If you want to share them with us, with our group, we'd be very happy about it.
I will certainly send you an email when our next report is published then.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.